Good afternoon, one and all. We are in the class of Indian economy, and the topic which we are going to learn today is industrial policy of Government of India. First of all, we should understand what's the meaning of the industrial policy of the government. Government action to influence the ownership and structure of the industry and its performance. It takes the form of paying subsidies or providing finance in other ways or of regulation. It includes procedures, principles, policies, rules, and regulations, incentives and punishments, the tariff policy, the labor policy, governments of attitude towards foreign capital, etc. So, in short, we can say that the concept of industrial policy is comprehensive and it covers all those procedures, principles, policies, rules, and regulations which control the industrial undertaking of a country and shape the pattern of industrialization. It incorporates fiscal and monetary policies, the tariff policy, labor policy, the government attitude not only towards external assistance but the public and private sector also. So the main objective of the industrial policy of the government in India are to maintain a sustained growth in productivity, to enhance gainful employment, to achieve optimal utilization of human resources, to attain international competitiveness, and to transform India into a major partner and player in the global area. So, if we talk about the timeline of industrial policy reforms after independence, so there are so many. Industrial Policy 1948, Industrial Policy 1956, 1977, 1980, 1990, and 1991. In our syllabus, in the syllabus of TY BCom, the industrial policy, the new industrial policy of the Government of India 1991 is here. So in our syllabus, we will understand or we will clear the concept of the industrial policy 1991. But before we start to learn the industrial policy 1991, we have to take a quick review of the previous policies. So industrial policy resolution of 1948. It defined the broad contours of the policy delineating the role of the state in industrial development, both as an entrepreneur and authority. It made clear that India is going to have a mixed economic model. It classified industries into four broad areas. First, strategic industry. Second, basic industries. Third, important industries. And fourth, other industries. So first, strategic industries, it includes three industries in which central government had monopoly. These includes arms and ammunition, atomic energy, and rail transport. So in the arms, ammunition, atomic energy, and rail transport, the central government had monopoly. The second, basic or key industries. So six industries, that is coal and iron and steel, aircraft manufacturing, shipbuilding, manufacture of telephone, telegraph and wireless apparatus, and mineral oil were designated as key industry or basic industries. These industries were to be set up by the central government. However, the existing private sector enterprises were allowed to continue. The third is important industry. It includes 18 industry, including heavy chemicals, sugar, cotton, textile and woolen industry, cement, paper, salt, machine tools, fertilizer, rubber, air, and sea transport, motor, tractor, electricity, etc. These industries continue to remain under private sector. However, the central government in consultation with the state government had general control over them. The fourth is under other industries, that is private and cooperative sector. All other industries which were not included in the above mentioned three categories were left open for the private sector. So the Industry Development Regulation Act was passed in 1951 to implement the Industrial Policy Resolution 1948. So Industrial Policy Statement of 1956, government revised its first industrial policy, that is the policy of 1948 through the Industrial Policy of 1956. It was regarded as the economic constitution of India or the Bible of state capitalism. The 1956 policy emphasized the need to expand the public sector, to build up a large and growing cooperative sector, and to encourage the separation of ownership and management in private industries, and above all, prevent the rise of private monopolies. It provides the basic framework for the government's policy in regard to industries till June 1991. Industrial Policy Resolution 1956 classified industries into three categories: Schedule A, Schedule B, and Schedule C. Schedule A, consisting of 17 industries, was the exclusive responsibilities of the state. Out of these 17 industries, four industries, namely arms and ammunition, atomic energy, railway, and air transport, had central government monopolies. New units in the remaining industries were developed by the state governments. Schedule B, consisting of 12 industries, was open to both the private and public sectors. However, such industries were progressively state owned. Schedule C. All the other industries not included in these two schedules constituted the third category, which was left open to the private sector. However, the state reserved the right to undertake any type of industrial production. The IPR 1956 stressed the importance of cottage and small scale industries for expanding employment opportunities and for wider decentralization of economic power and activity. The resolution also called for effort to maintain industrial peace. A fair share of the proceeds of production was to be given to the toiling mass in keeping with the avowed objectives of democratic socialism. If we say criticism of the 1956 industrial policy, so the Industrial Policy Resolution 1956 came in for sharp criticism for the private sector, since this resolution reduced the scope for the expansion of the private sector significantly. The sector was kept under state control through a system of licenses. So, what is industrial licenses here? In order to open new industry or to expand production, obtaining a license from the government was a prerequisite. Opening new industry in economically backward area was incentivized through easy licensing and subsidization of critical inputs like electricity and water. This was done to counter regional disparities that existed in the country. Licenses to increase production were issued only if the government was conceived that the economy required more of the goods. Industrial Policy Statement 1977. In December 1977, the Janta government announced its new industrial policy through a statement in the parliament. The main thrust of this policy was the effective promotion of cottage and small industries, widely dispersed in rural area and small towns. In this policy, the small sector was classified into three groups: cottage and household sectors, tiny sectors, and small scale industries. The 1977 industrial policy prescribed different areas for large scale industrial sector: basic industries, capital goods industries, high technology industries, and other industries outside the list of reserved items for the small scale sector. The 1977 industrial policy restricted the scope of large business houses so that no unit of the same business group acquired a dominant and monopolistic position in the market. It put emphasis on reducing the occurrence of labor unrest. The government encouraged the workers' participation in management from shop floor level to broad level. The industrial policy 1977 was subjected to serious criticism as there was an absence of effective measures to curb the dominant position of large scale units, and the policy did not envisage any socio-economic transformation of the economy for curbing the role of big business houses and multinationals. Industrial policy of 1980 sought to promote the concept of economic federation, to raise the efficiency of the public sector, and to reverse the trend of industrial production of the past 3 years, and reaffirmed its faith in the Monopolies and Destructive Trade Practices Act, MRTP Act, and Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, FERA. So these two full form may be asked in the examination in the multiple choice question. What is the full form of MRTP Act and what is the full form of FERA? So the full form of MRTP Act is Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, and FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act. So this was a quick review of up to 1980 industrial policy. If we talk about now, if we talk about the our syllabus, the new the topic industrial policy. So the uh, topic of our syllabus is the new industrial policy during economic reforms of 1991. So, which are the objectives of this formal policy? First, we understand. First, we know that liberalizing the industry from the regulatory device such as licenses and control, enhancing support to the small scale sector, increasing competitiveness of industries for the benefit of the common man, ensuring the running of public enterprises on business lines and thus cutting their losses, providing more incentives for industrialization of the backward areas, and ensuring rapid industrial development in a competitive environment. The Congress government, led by Mr. Narasimha Rao, announced the new industrial policy in July 1991. Thus, we can say that the main aim of the new industrial policy was to unshake the Indian industrial economy from the cobwebs of unnecessary bureaucratic control, to introduce liberalization with a view to integrate the Indian economy with the world economy, to remove restrictions on direct foreign investment, as also to free the domestic entrepreneur from the restrictions of MRTP Act, and the policy aimed to shed the load of the public enterprises, which have shown in a very low rate of return or were incurring losses over the years. So all these reforms of the industrial policy led the government to take a series of initiative in respect of policies in the following area, that is industrial licensing, foreign investment, foreign technology policy, public sector policy, and MRTPA. So we can say that these in this way we can understand the features of industrial policy. So with the features of industrial policy, we understand the new industrial policy. Okay. So here the features of new industrial policy is: first, abolition of industrial licensing. So before I start, I want to say that with the gradual liberalization of the 1956 industrial policy in the mid 80s, the tempo of industrial development started picking up. But the industry was still feeling the burden of many controls and regulation. So for a faster growth of industry, it was necessary that even these impediments should be removed. So the new government by Shri Narasimha Rao, which took office in June 1991, announced a package of liberalization measures under the its industrial policy on July 24, 1991. So if we say that the features, if we talk about the features, so first is abolition of industrial licensing. In the earlier industrial policy, industries were subjected to tight regulation through the licensing system. Through some liberalization measures were introduced during 1980s that positively affected the growth of industry. Still, industrial development remained constrained to a considerable extent. The new industrial policy abolishes the system of industrial licensing for most of the industries. Under this policy, no licensing are required for setting up new industrial units for substantial expansion in the capacity of the existing units, except for a short list of industries relating to country security and strategic concern, hazardous industries, and industries causing environmental degradation. To begin with, 18 industries were placed in this list of industries that require licensing. Through later amendment to the policy, this list was reduced. It now covers only 5 industries relating to health securities and strategic concern that require compulsory licensing. Thus, the industries have been almost completely made free of the licensing provision and the constraints attached with it. So, list of industries in respect of which industrial licensing will be compulsory. That 18 industries were, if I say that, uh, coal and lignite, petroleum, other than crude, and it distillation product, distillation and brewing of alcoholic drink, sugar, animal fats and oil, cigarettes of and tobacco and manufactured tobacco and its substitutes, asbestos and asbestos based products, plywood, decorative veneers, and other wood-based products such as practical board, medium density fiber board, block board, rawhides and skins, leathers, chamois leather and patent leather, then tanned or dressed for skin, motor cars, paper and other I have to say paper and newsprint, except Pegasus based units, electronic, aerospace and defense equipment, all types of. Then industrial explosive, including uh, denoting fuse, safety fuse, gunpowder, and matches, hazardous chemicals, drugs and pharmaceuticals, then entertainment electronics, that TV, color TV, CD players, etc. White goods, domestic refrigerator, domestic dish washing machines, uh, programmable domestic washing machines, microwave ovens, air conditioners. So these are the this is the 18 industries. Uh, First, that the 18 industries in respect of which industrial licensing were compulsory, and list of industries to be reserved for the public sector were arms and ammunition and allied items of defense equipments, defense aircraft and warships. Second, atomic energy, coal and lignite, mineral oils, mining and iron ore, manages or chrome or gypsum, sulfur, gold and diamond, mining of copper, lead, zinc, tin, etc. Minerals specified in the schedule to the atomic energy. So, we can say that in projects, and the other are in project where imported capital goods are required, automatically clearance will be given in cases where foreign exchange availability is ensured through foreign equity of or if the CIF value of imported capital goods required is less than 25% of the total value net of taxes of plant and equipment up to maximum value of rupees 2 crore. So actually, these are the list of the reserved for the public sector. If we say, if we talk about the second feature, de-reservation of the industries for public sector. So the public sector, which was conceived as a vehicle for rapid industrial development, largely failed to do the job assigned to it. Most public sector enterprises become symbols of inefficiency and impose heavy burden on the government through their perpetual losses. Since a large field of industry was reserved exclusively for public sector, where it remained a virtual non-performer, except for a few units like the ONGC, the industrial development was thus the biggest causality. So the new industrial policy seeks to limit the role of public sector and encourage private sector's participation or a wider field of industry. With this view, the following changes or the changes which are on the screen were made in the policy regarding public sector industries. First, reduced reservation for public sector. Second, efforts to revive loss-making enterprises. Third, disinvestment is selected public sector industrial unit. And fourth, greater autonomy to the public enterprises. So if we talk about the first, reduced reservation for public sectors. Out of the 17 industries reserved for the public sector under the 1956 industrial policy, the new policy de-reserved 9 industries and thus limited the scope of public sector to only 8 industries. Later, a few more industries were de-reserved and now the exclusive area of the public sector remained confined to only 4 industrial sectors, which are defense production, atomic energy, railways and minerals used in the generation of atomic energy. However, if need be, even some of these areas can be opened up for the private sector. The public sector can also be allowed to set up units in areas that are now being thrown open for private sector if the national interest so demands. Second, efforts of revive loss-making enterprises. Those public enterprises which are chronically sick and making persistent losses would be returned to the Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstructions or similar other high level institution, that is known as BIFR, Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction. So a similar institution created for the purpose. The BIFR or the other such institution will formulate schemes for the rehabilitation and revival of such industrial unit. The third is disinvestment in selected public sectors industrial unit. As a measure to raise large resources and introduce wider private participation in public sector units, the government would sell a part of its shareholding of these industries to mutual funds, financial institutions, general public and worker. For this purpose, the Government of India set up a disinvestment commission in August 1996, which works out the modality of disinvestment on the basis of recommendation of the disinvestment commission. The government sells the shares of public enterprises. The fourth is greater autonomy to public enterprises. The new industrial policy seeks to give greater autonomy to the public enterprises in their day-to-day working. The trust would be on performance improvement of public enterprises through a mix of greater autonomy and more accountability. So today we have learned the uh, two features and the other features. We will learn in the next lecture. Okay, so today we have learned the two features and the changes made in the policy regarding the public sector industries. So in the next lecture, we will learn the other features of the new industrial policy, 1991 industrial policy. Here I am giving you the brief, here I am giving you the knowledge of all the features. Regarding the data, I will show you the data in the next or next class, and I'll give you the all study material regarding the new industrial policy with the complete data. So we will learn the other features in the next class. Have a nice day.